Good morning. Good morning, this 2nd of August 2022. I want to talk today about the different levels that you can be experiencing as you are opening up your abilities. We kind of go through different stages of how we interpret messages from spirit. And you'll see this, when you're watching spiritual people talking, and there is so many online that are doing it now. You watch the different levels that people speak at, and so you might get somebody who, especially if they're doing tarot type readings and using tools, their messages are coming more from maybe an emotional feeling that you're going through. Or so, as an example, something will come up and they will say there's a change coming for you. And then they may be able to pick up it's around work, or they may be able to pick up it's around relationships. So they'll say there's a change coming around work or a change coming around relationships. That they don't have any further detail. That's just like a feeling that they get. It can be very broad, because that could apply to anybody, but it's still, if they're doing a one-on-one with somebody, it's quite often going to be very significant to that person that's listening. And as time goes on and you keep doing this kind of work and you become more and more in tune with who you are, how you work, and with your surroundings, you start getting more detail. So then you might say, there's a change coming with work and I'm actually seeing a Coca-Cola bottle. So I feel like you're going into a company that's, starts with a C, or you might be going to work for Coca-Cola, or you may be going to work for a company that produces drinks. You start to get little details, and then you can work out they're always clues. There's always clues being given to you, and it's up to you to work out what these clues are. So you can you go from this and I was exactly the same when I first started. I would see things but not understand how to interpret them. So it kind of starts, I just see in myself the differences in readings from how I used to see things and interpret things to how I'm doing it now. And the more you keep practicing, it's, as I keep saying, it's a muscle. It's in here. It's like in the center of your brain there. And the more you keep using it on a daily basis, the more it'll grow. It's exactly the same as going to the gym where you want muscles. You have to keep going all the time. You have to keep being in that awareness state all the time. And it becomes so natural that you'll be driving down the street, you'll look at a house, it's drawn out to you. You could drive past that same house, 20 times before, but this particular day it'll be drawn out to you, and the very next day when you drive past, it'll have a for sale sign on it. You just know that there is something going on with that house. There's some kind of energy going on with that house. You'll be at work and you'll just look at a staff member and you'll just know that there is something going on in their life. Not exactly what, but you'll just be really drawn to one particular person. It starts that it sort of becomes so natural, it just happens all the time. I was having a talk with a lady the other day. She's very in tune and she picks up a lot of, because of her work situation, she picks up a lot of accidents that are going to happen, or something on a negative radar that's going to happen, and not picking up all the good stuff. Like, it's always, and I was thinking back, like I was very much like that as well in the beginning. I would dream so much about a helicopter coming down onto power lines, and then in the news 4 days later there was a helicopter that had crashed into power lines. Or I saw that time where I saw police laying on a driveway shooting someone under a garage, and it was on the news like 4 days later after my dream. my dreams were always stuff that was upsetting, I couldn't change. And I remember I think I just said to Spirit one day, why are you giving me these visions when I can't stop it? Like I would see a plane crash with all the people being killed, and then it would be on the news. And I sat down with Spirit and I said, I can't ring up an airline and tell them not to fly out. That has to happen. That flight has to happen. That flight has to crash, and all those people on board have to experience what they experience. So why am I seeing it? What is the point in me seeing it and me getting upset in something I can't control? I think it was a lesson in learning, if you're going to go down this path, you're going to see things that you can't control. And in a way, it helps you to disconnect your own personal emotions to a situation. So if I'm doing a reading now with somebody that is going to pass away, and they've got cancer and they've got a lot of hope, but I can see that they're still going to pass away, and I'm not going to tell them that. But in a way, it reprograms you as the reader, as the person that's picking up. It's programming you to disconnect your own personal feelings. It's kind of also like if you're a paramedic or someone in, theatre, and a police officer, someone who works, a funeral director. If you're somebody who's dealing with accidents and death and it's traumatic, you learn that same disconnection. And paramedics will tell you after years and years and years, it gets to them because it's a constantly seeing trauma on other people, and you're trying as hard as you can to save them, but you can't always save everybody. So this kind of work is similar in a way that when you're starting to read people or you're starting to see so much, it's learning to disconnect your own emotion from what somebody else is going through, and understanding that it's their journey, it's part of what their soul has to go through, and not something that you have to fix all the time. I think a lot of the times, because if you're watching this, then I would say you're 100% an empath who's very kind and caring and wanting to make a difference in this world with people. And you want to fix other people and you want to heal situations. And so I believe we are given those types of visions and experiences of seeing things we can't control as a way to teach us that we can't control everything. We have to sit back and watch things unfold. We can still send love into a situation, and we can still be a support, and we can be there to listen, but we can't change it. If that soul is meant to go through that situation, we can't change it. So if you're ever getting those kind of dreams, premonitions, where you see it, and then it does unfold, it's helping you to disconnect your own emotion into it, and to understand, because that's where we get to when we have passed away. Those on the other side, that spiritual energy, they watch everything unfold because they know that the souls have to go through things. They can just sit back and watch it unfold. And I mentioned that when I had that near-death experience myself, I could look at my sons and see how upset they were. From a spiritual, like as a spirit, when I'd left my body, I could see how upset they were, but I didn't have to fix them. I didn't have to take away their pain. I didn't have to do anything about the situation. Yet on earth, as a mother who's got an ego, I want to take away their pain. I want to fix things. But as a spirit form, we don't. And I think sometimes also we call out to help we ask our loved ones to help us in a situation, and quite often they know that they have to sit back and watch us go through something. It's part of our own growth. And I know it's horrible. We go, it's not fair. Like, none of us want to go through hard lessons. We do want stuff to be easy. So yeah, I quite often find if I'm going through something really difficult and I want some help and I'm not getting any help from anywhere, I just turn it back to, well, I've got to go through this. There's nothing stopping me from not going. I'm going to have to go through this, and let's just get it over and done with, kind of thing, and work on what I'm supposed to be learning from the situation. And that seems to make it go an awful lot quicker than trying to fight against it and asking all outside areas for help. So yeah, you'll notice, I was getting way off track there. I'm talking sort of about different types of readers and how they will see a situation unfolding for you, and it takes practice. Like, it takes a practice with a reader who, so many psychics will give you some information and they're not interpreting it properly. I can get some visions and I'm not interpreting it properly. I've got the right concept, but I'm just not interpreting it properly. It's got to be fine-tuned. And that comes with practice. And even now, after I've done this for over 40 years, I still have times where I see something and I'm on the right track, but I put a wrong interpretation to it. So, and some people are really, really hard to read. Some people have they really don't want to know. They say they want to know, but they don't want to know, so that instantly puts up this barrier, and then from that barrier being up, it's really, really hard to read them. And they've got this negativity. They're like, no one's really going to know, anything about me. And then other people's, their energy is so open, you can be so bang on, 100% accurate with absolutely everything, because their energy just flows. You really do connect with somebody else. And that's another thing. Your energy and somebody else's energy might have a conflict as well. And so that's going to make it difficult to read what's going on with that person. So, and a lot of the times people, they think it's like mind reading as well. It's not mind reading. It's energy reading. It's feeling the energy. I had this, it's funny because I had this conversation on the phone with a lady who, she rang me up about something totally different, and then it ended up, she asked me what I did, and I was telling her, and she got fascinated and went down that path, and she said to me about, I think she was asking, does it get tiring or whatever, and I said, yes, it does. It's very draining. It's very draining on the mind. But one thing I have not wanted to do, this is just me personally, I don't want to do a reading for somebody and tell them things they already know. So it's a bit like there's psychics that will stand up on a stage, and I think like John Edward, right? So they look around the audience and then they're drawn to a certain area, and then they say, I'm picking up an uncle or a grandfather or your husband, and then they get the name, like I've got Jim, and Jim worked on a farm, and the person is saying, yes, that was my father, and yes, that's what he did. And it's wonderful that because for the person in the audience, that is, for them, that's clarifying that the psychic is actually picking up their relative. So that's comforting for them. But for me, they already know. They know who their father was. They know what their father did for a living. They know all that. So I don't want to tell them what they already know. Even though I know that people find it really comforting to hear it, I want to do stuff that hasn't happened yet. My whole life, I've always wanted to be in the future and tell people stuff that hasn't happened yet. So if you tell me what you do for a job, I don't want to mind read. I don't want to waste half an hour on a reading figuring out what you do for a career. Like, because I know, as I was saying to this lady on the phone, I said, so if I said to you, oh, you're a producer of a TV show, without you telling me, right? If I said that, what would you be impressed by me that I picked that up? And she said, yeah. I said, why? I said, you already know what you do. I said, isn't that like I've just picked up what you already know you do? And she goes, well, yeah, I guess. And I said, wouldn't you rather hear something that I don't know, like there's in the future that you don't even know? And she goes, oh, yeah. And then we got round to the conversation about psychics that will give news of death to people. And then the people that, like a friend of mine, she was told by a very well-known astrologist in Australia who's been on TV and very, very well-known, was told that her husband was going to pass away on a certain time frame, like after they'd been together for 10 years or something. So for the whole of those 10 years, she worried that that was going to come true. And anyway, that 10 years came and went, and he's still happily alive. That, to me, is the most irresponsible thing a psychic, clairvoyant, anybody can instill into the mind of another person. Because what does that achieve? It doesn't change anything that's going to happen anyway, and all it does is put worry into that person. It just, I know doctors used to do the same thing, didn't they? I don't think they still do it now, but they used to say, oh, you've got 6 weeks to live. And the amount of people that died exactly 6 weeks after because of that thought, because our minds are incredibly powerful. If you tell somebody something, they will believe it. And it just shouldn't happen. You've got to be so careful in what you tell people, especially when you're doing this kind of work. So, yep, I like to tell people things that are happening in the future that are hopeful. I don't go down the path of things that are going to be bad. I'm still, one great thing is I'm still seeing things in people's futures in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time. And I'm not seeing like destruction or people. In all the readings I'm doing day after day after day, I don't see people losing everything, and I don't see destruction. So for those that are focused on all the negative stuff in the world and thinking that we're all going to doom and gloom, I don't see it that way. In each individual reading, I'm still seeing things unfolding for different people. So I still think we're all going to still be here, and we are moving. I still see us moving into a much better time. So yeah, you'll start noticing, especially when you watch things on like this online, because obviously it interests you. I know there's so many people now that can channel, and I think you can tell when someone's actually channeling a message through and when they are just then they're shutting their eyes and just telling you something that they believe themselves. I think you're intelligent enough to work that out. There is so many people on a level of needing to use phrases like light workers and star seeds, and like the August 8th, I think it is, they'll focus on a Lion's Gate portal, and it's all in this spiritual realm of hope, using that kind of language. And so I know I saw some lady the other day, she's absolutely thoroughly 100% convinced to speak to unicorns. And I thought, well, that's your thing. That's your thing. Unfortunately, I've never seen a unicorn, and I've never had a unicorn spirit come to me, but I know there's many people out there that have. I'm not dismissing it as wrong, but it's just not happened for me. And maybe because the way I work, I try to have a balance of 1 foot in the spiritual world and 1 foot in the real world, reality world, and put the two together. And I know that if I stepped further into the spiritual world, I would see things over there that don't match up with my real world. And that's just my choice. That's just the choice that I choose to do this kind of work in. I try to have a balance of being in the earth world and the spiritual world at the same time. I've seen many, many workers that have gone with me throughout this path that have gone way and way further into just the spiritual world and are lost touch with reality. I've certainly seen that. And I've seen others that got so stuck in reality they lost faith in the spiritual world as well. So it's quite a difficult balance to have when you're working in this kind of field. And yeah, so you'll notice it as if you see psychics that bag other psychics and tell them that they are doing things wrong, then it's just the ego, isn't it? It's just the ego of that psychic. Maybe because they can't do things that way. I look at the way some others work, and I think I can't do what you do. I do it my way. But that doesn't mean I've lost respect for what they're doing. And if it doesn't resonate with me, I'll just move on. Like sometimes I can look at someone else working in this field and I think, I've been there, I was there, and I'm in a different place now. But that's okay. I don't have to get online and bag them, which I actually saw a very, very prominent psychic who I think she was Australian Psychic of the Year or something years ago. She was bagging the way other people work, and it was more about, because she's always never said that she could do things for the future. If she can't work, if there's something that she can't do, that doesn't mean it's not, the ability isn't there for somebody else. It just means she can't do it. But don't bag other people for what they're doing. And then she got hit with a lot of health problems not long after making that statement. And I thought that your guides, I could just see your guides not happy with the way that you are bagging other people. So let's just allow everyone to work at their level. Like, we have to be at our level. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing is not right for everybody. It's right for me, and it's not right for everybody else. And you might watch my work and think, I'm not good at what I do, or that's totally your opinion. But I can watch everyone else and allow them to be at the level that they're at. Some I resonate with, some I don't resonate with, and then just move on. So this was like a conversation that was all over the place today. I'm taking a little break in 2 weeks' time. I've got a nice little cottage to go away to. I'll be on my own going away, but going to visit some grandkids that I haven't seen for a while because they live in a different place to me. And hopefully I'll get about 4 days of just having a break, because my mind really, really does need a break. And I don't know, the energy at the moment just feels a bit, again, still. It's, you know what it is? To me, it feels like it's just tiring. Like, we thought before we'd had enough. You know, when you go, I've just had enough of this, let's just move on. But it's still there. That energy is still there, and it's like, it's still not moving on. It's just taking forever. So I don't know if you're feeling that same kind of energy as well. But thank you again for listening to me today, and I hope everyone has a lovely day.